That's what they say. They don't work. And here I have two sitting on the desk.
We're live.
We're live, so start lying now.
Oh, yeah. We signed up 73 people.
Wow, just from referrals.
Last night alone.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, how you do that.
Joking, everybody.
Well, say hi to everyone as they tune in.
Sure. Having some turkey for lunch, are you?
Having a little smoked Gouda.
Oh, very nice.
And then, my child, I have my Marie Claire's in the microwave because that's how, when you're busy, that's how you eat.
That's right.
The old microwave dinners. But Tass, haven't seen you in a bit. How's things?
Been a hot minute. Well, I tell you what, the weather here is like horrible. It's 43 and raining.
How was your flight?
Perry said he was jealous. I think the flight was good, man. I slept on both legs of the flight, so it was good.
Good.
Yeah. Missed the hot tub last night.
We're live, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, hey.
I still missed the hot tub, right. And don't get out for 2.5 hours.
And these guys, watching live, this is how serious I am about that.
Oh, boy. You have pictures?
Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't say good time, I don't know what else.
That's awesome. It was a good time, man. Lots of good talks.
And by the way, I love Mikey Dillard. For those of you who don't know, Mike Dillard, CEO of Century, and his son Mikey, who's working his way up and working in Century. But this is what else we do during events.
little VR. Look at him go.
Look, he's the champ. Anyway, we had a good time. So glad to see everybody on. How was everybody's weekend? We had a great elite event. And it was our first elite event since end of February, March. And so far, no positive COVIDs.
That's right.
Sure.
I don't think you get it twice.
Anyway, all was good. We had great stuff, and today we're going to talk to you guys. You can't. What's the title? You can't maximize your success. No, not at all.
No.
Go ahead.
It's the one thing. I don't know it either, man. It's the one thing you must do. You must train on.
So why don't you guys weigh in? What's the one thing? Go ahead.
Yeah, what's the one thing that you must train on in your schools? And there's lots of them, right? But
Yes.
one specifically, and we can talk about the importance of why this is so important. But what's the one thing that you guys must train on in your school?
Guys, I'm telling you, I want to make you successful so you too can have this.
Oh my!
The turkey, potatoes, and vegetables.
Thank you so much, Hans.
Harry, how late up did you stay up last night making that for him?
We don't talk about the process.
Oh
Yeah, he doesn't give up the process. Anyway,
we don't need mechanics. We just need the results, guys. Come on.
well, for those of you who are still on, congratulations. You're different than a lot of people in the industry as this show has been, moving right along. But anyway, what is the one thing? Taking action, systems, role playing. What's the one thing you must train on to make sure that you complete, I don't even want to say that you can maximize your success. And then we're going to talk about it. We're going to simplify things for you. But it's so important because in an industry, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Remember, we're all the same. We're in an industry full of egos. I mean, we have ego, right? I mean,
No.
no.
And listen, a lot of these are the right answer. And look, Metzger's guilty of two sayings that he says all the time. By the way, and how to maximize your business. But here's the thing, and I want to make sure that you guys understand this so that it's not glossed over. because it's an emphasis that he makes, because some people will tune out, right? And we say this all the time as well, when they hear something and they believe that they're already doing that. And here's the reality, right? There are things that you can do and that you are doing, and I say you, I'm talking industry, does in their school, where I can say, an example, you shouldn't be giving out your prices on the phone. And some people are going to chime in and say, well, we do this or we do that, and we enroll students. Great. But what he says is maximize your success. So we can do lots of things, lots of different ways. But if you want to maximize your success, there is a right way and there's a better way, right? And that's, I think, the important thing for us to remember as we go through and we talk about the things that whether it's this show or at a conference or in foundation, anything that we do, there are ways that you can generate, revenue. There are ways that you can enroll students. There's right ways and then there's better ways. And that's what he means when he says maximize your success.
And I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but Miss Ramos, Mrs. Johnson just canceled her membership last week. So I won't be referring to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson anymore. All right. Thank you. And all right. So here's the deal.
We should have like a whole Metzgerisms week.
All right. So listen, and we're avoiding saying it because some of you are going to tune out when we say you must train on this one thing. But we're going to elaborate on it. So hear us out. The one thing that you really must train on that I feel gets neglected is instructor training. Instructor training. Don't confuse that with instructor training to be physically better as a martial artist. I think that's what a lot of us do. First of all, I don't even know if a lot of us still do that, right? I mean, but you got to train instructor training on how to deliver whatever it is that you teach, because there's a right way and a wrong way. There's a want from your customer and a need. You as an instructor can be what I call a driller, right? Where anybody that stays with you are going to be some of the best martial artists in the world, because it's just hardcore training and drilling, and anyone that lasts, meaning they don't quit out of boredom, they don't quit out of my body feels beat up every night. If they stick with you, they're going to be the best. What you got to train on is how do we accomplish that, along with making the experience fun and not so difficult that only 5% of your student body makes it to black belt. And if you want to do a little exercise here, think about how many years you've been in business. So I need everybody just pay attention and write this down for me. Thank you. How many years have you been in business? How many students do you think you enroll on average each month? Okay. How long does the average student take to be a black belt in your system? And how many active black belts do you have training compared to how many people you've enrolled since you've opened your doors? Now, you can eliminate, let's just say, for example, well, we average 5 people a month we enroll, and it usually takes, I'm making this up, 3 years to get a black belt. Well, then how many was I enrolling up to 3 years ago? How many have I enrolled total? And how many black belts do I currently have?
So
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, give an example, right? So I'm making this up. You've been in business for 8 years. And it takes you on average, we're using arbitrary numbers, so let's not get in the conversation of, oh my God, you guys get black belts out in 3 years? Let's just understand the concept. If you've been in business for 8 years and you enroll on average 5 students a month, that's 60 students a year for 5 years. 5 years, that's 300 people. And we're not counting the last 3 years. You should have developed 300 black belts over the course, if you have a perfect retention, by the way, but you should have generated 300 black belts over the course of the last 8 years. Well, we know that that's just not the case, right? And this is important because also we hear, well, my retention is great. Well, define great. I mean, is that 3%? Is that 4% attrition? Is it 2% attrition? The reality is we all lose students, right? And we don't believe that we do because we see our floor with people been on our floor for 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 20 years maybe. And so we think that we don't lose students. And the reality is if we actually put the pencil to the paper, we're going to realize that we do lose students, right? And it's important for us to understand that and not tune out.
And then if you say, well, I have promoted 300 black belts, even though I only have 20 right now, I had 300 black belts. Where are they? Why are people quitting at black belt? What are we pre-framing? This is instructor training, right? And instructor training is not just leadership and instructor program, right? Let me ask you this. How do you know you, if you're a one-man or one-woman show, how do you know you are a good instructor? I've never met anybody that said, I'm not a good instructor. Nobody's ever said, I run a martial arts school. I'm the only one. I don't have staff. Are you a good instructor or a bad instructor? I'm a great instructor. That's what people say. Well, how do you know? Because your students that are still there tell you? Because even the worst instructor in the world that's losing 95% of their people, the 5% that are staying with them will say, you're a great instructor. It's a very tough thing to swallow, right? But retention will tell you if you're a great instructor. So what is a great instructor? Task, forgetting physicality, what's a great instructor?
Can I just give you some stats for a second? Good.
Yes, you may.
I just pulled this up, so I want to make sure I'm reading the right numbers because 96.3574% of stats are made up on the spot. But I want to give you an example, right? Harvard University. At Harvard, it says overall 97.3% of Harvard undergrads finish within 6 years. I want you to think about that. 97.3% of people that start their journey at Harvard end up graduating, which is one of the most difficult schools in the country. I guarantee you, as a martial arts industry, we're not graduating 97.3% of our students that start at white belt to black belt, which is a 3-year program, right? Or 4-year, whatever it is, black belt. We might have some BJJ guys on here. It's a 7-8-year program. But this is, by the way, within 6 years. This is at Harvard. So even if you're a BJJ school, as an example, I mean, are you graduating?
Well,
so
there you are. We lost you for a minute. You said, or even if you're a BJJ school, are we graduating? And
97.3% of our students, or 90% of our students, if you want to use skewed numbers a little bit, over the course of 7, 8 years, or however long it takes to get a black belt, 8 years, 10 years, whatever it is, in BJJ, right? So understand that concept. And if Harvard is one of the most difficult schools in the nation, then why is it that are we like more difficult than Harvard? Is it more difficult than Harvard to get a black belt? And some people might say, well, yes, it is, but it's not. Right? It's a matter of showing up. It's a matter of putting in the work and doing the time. So how do we get that rate to the same graduation rates as a Harvard, as example, right? Because that's damn successful. I mean, if you look at that, that's really successful. And the answer comes down to, part of the answer comes down to your floor, and it's a big part of what you do. Harvard can have in business systems, they can having systems to maximize their revenue. They can have, but at the end of the day, if they don't keep a student, they're not graduating, right? And we need to make sure we know how to keep students, which is having a great floor.
And we'll talk about some of the things that you got to focus on, but I want everyone to understand this. Is your martial arts school, do you guys charge more than Harvard charges? I don't know, right? I don't think so. But it's the vision and the picture that is painted on what it means to have a degree from Harvard. What does it mean to have a black belt from you? How is that picture painted? What is the value in that? When do you let your students know that? Is it about getting a black belt, or is it about getting a black belt from you, right? But your instructors on the floor, whether you like it or not, and I've said this before too, here's another Metzgerism. You're always selling. So your instructor that's out there counting kicks or punches or breaking down an arm bar or whatever style you teach, you're always selling. But you have to know that, because why are you breaking this down? Why is this important? What's the value in me doing this and learning this technique? Where am I going with this? You got to paint a picture. And we don't do that enough as instructors. We jump on the floor and we just teach, and we're so focused on curriculum, a lot of us, most of us as an industry, but it's all about the journey and the delivery of the content that you're teaching. And then, I don't know, not everyone is accepted into Harvard. Are you selective in who you accept to your school, or are you accepting everyone? Sir, if I had as many people applying to my school as Harvard, I'd be selective. Why is it that people are wanting to get into Harvard and they can't take everyone? If my school was like that, I'd be very selective. Yes, I would. But how can you get your school to be like that? What's the difference between your marketing and the guy down the street's marketing? So when you say you don't know, not everyone is accepted into Harvard, well, wouldn't that be great? And by the way, and I said this over the weekend, I've had 2 clients that I've worked with in the elite program that had a waiting list to get into their martial arts school, because they did such an unbelievable job at marketing themselves in the community that people could have just went down the street, but they literally got on a waiting list to join their school. And it was a waiting list because with the size school we had, we could not fit any more classes to keep the quality of where we wanted to keep it. And it was only twice in 18 years with all the clients where there was no other solution. Now, those 2 people have opened up second schools now, right? To accommodate what they built in their community. So how many of you have had a waiting list to where you could be a little selective? And it wasn't that this person was selective, but they couldn't keep accepting students. So it was like you had to wait. And by the way, when they had a graduation, when people quit and some of the beginners moved up into intermediate and space opened up in the beginner belts, sure enough, they would let these people know we have space. I want to know, you're the next one on the list. Would you like to bring your child in and enroll? And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times those people were right there and said, yes, I'll be on my way. I'm coming down to enroll. So that's the difference. But it's about that culture, is how we're projecting ourselves to the community. But once you do that and people come in, do your instructors know what that projection to the community is? Do they understand what we're trying to deliver? And as a martial arts school owner, what is it that you are trying to deliver? Is it just physicality? Is it discipline? Is it confidence? Yes, yes, and yes. But here's the next question. Is it fun? Is it enjoyable? Is it a family? And you could say yes, yes, yes. But if your attrition's telling you it's not, we got to fix it. And the only way you're going to know if you're doing that is A, look at your numbers, right? Not only on your retention rate, but your recruitment rate, okay? Or have somebody unbiased come into your school, watch some of your classes and say, well, I got to be honest, I think the class was really boring. And here's why I think it was boring. And I was watching parents, I was watching kids. They're like standing there, at times, and you're not noticing these things. But another great way is just to record yourself on the floor, right? So instructor training is so important, not just for yourself, but as somebody said earlier, creating a leadership team to start teaching advanced students how to help and assist, but by praising correctly, building people up, making them feel good about themselves, not just always correcting or drilling or making them physically the best martial artist they can be today. It's about the long-term play, right? Go ahead, Tass.
And also, creating an environment. We visited a school this last week. Well, did I say this last week? Right? Was that Tuesday, Monday, or Tuesday? I think it was, right?
Tuesday.
At 1:00 in the afternoon, and we walked in, and it was packed. And and by the way, it was an MMA school. And
not only were they packed, they were at 5 enrollments so far for the day.
I was getting, all right. That was good. But Metz has told me that I don't get to the point quick enough. So he's just getting to the point. So I appreciate that. Yeah, they enrolled.
This is instructor training.
So they enrolled 5 students that day while we were there. By the way, in 90 minutes, when's the last time you enrolled 5 students before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And the interesting part is, listen, I'm a Taekwondo guy, right? I'm not an MMA guy. And I walked in, and there's pro fighters in this gym. And I'm not going to lie, it's a little intimidating when you first walk in. And you're like, dang, this is a little intimidating. Well, how did they have 5 new people enroll in the 90 minutes that they were there? Because they couldn't have been nicer people, and the culture that they have in their school that starts from the top down. We were greeted, by everybody. Everybody came with an extended hand and a smile and greeted us, not just the instructors or the staff, but the people that were there and that were training as well. And so, when you walk in that environment and you're like, man, this is my first MMA class. And by the way, males, females, everybody, all different shapes, all different sizes. And they were walking in and they're leaving and they're going to enroll. Why? Because of the experience that they had while they were there and what the floor produced for them and what the floor gave them as far as emotions and that culture and that environment. So it was very impressive.
And by the way, why don't you also tell them the obstacles, what was going on that day when they got the 5 enrollments?
Oh, they're redoing their school. There's literally, they have the cage, right? And I was actually telling Roland, where they're like, oh, dude, look at this place, man. They're all rolling on the mat. There's sparks, think of an MMA school. There's sparks flying because they're like grinding the cage, taking the cage down, moving the cage. They took out some of the mats, so there's like an empty concrete floor. It was a really, really interesting environment, and it reminded me, man. And this is not an excuse. And I got to be careful how I say this because there's cultures for everything, right? And the MMA culture. It's a cool gym, but it's what I would picture an MMA gym to be like. It's no different than when I went into it was 1,400 square feet maybe. And my critical eye walked in. I'm like, man, to this dance school, this place is filthy. It's tiny. They have the bathrooms filthy. The ceiling tiles are nasty. There's lights out. You need to take care of your school. But she had 600 students and she taught from 3:30 in the afternoon until 10 o'clock at night. And my eyes were open to that. I'm like, I can't believe people join this place. Why? Because of my reasons of the dirty bathroom, the ceiling tiles, everything else. But it's the culture, it's the experience, and that's the reason why people are coming. So,
but you can't have culture and experience unless there's training involved.
Correct.
And again, when we train our people in tasks, you know this from yourself, me, and consulting people, that when we say you need to train your instructors, 9 times out of 10, we are only and solely focused on training them how to run a class properly, not how to run your school properly. And I call it teaching with blinders on, right? They're just focused on the task at hand and their students on the mat. You got to look at the parents. You got to, like you said, there was a class going on when we walked in. But everyone noticed. We walked in. People made it a point to just step over, say hello, come over, say hi, talk. So this instructor training and staff training in general, but instructor training is so key. Go ahead.
You bring up a great point, and because I want to clarify something that you told me, which I'm guilty of, and have been working on. There's a difference between telling and teaching, right? And a lot of times what we'll do is, we can sit down and we can have all the instructors sit down. We can even have them on the floor if we want, right? Guys, this is what you need to be doing. Everyone needs to be sweating. Everyone needs to leave smiling. Everyone needs to learn something new. We got to make sure we go do the 3x3 rule. You can go through every instructor concept there is and tell them what that concept is. But if you don't, whatever you want to call it, right? Role play it, script spar it, speak scriptinese, whatever it is, if you're not actually having them practice those things, it's going to be very difficult for those things to come out on the floor. So we often confuse telling someone what to do and assume they know it, they understand it, and then they can just go perform it, as opposed to actually teaching and going through it and practicing and role playing. It's no different than if you were to teach me. I even said this when we were at the gym that we were at. I said, man, I'm not a BJJ guy, right? Like I have this much knowledge in BJJ. But I said, man, it just looks so much easier until you actually get on the floor and you do it. You don't understand sometimes how complicated it is. And when you sit back and you watch it, it looks easy. Well, it's no different. If I saw a move, I go, oh, man, I can do that. And then you get on the floor and you try and do it, you're like, dang, this is harder than I thought it was. The same thing with your instructors. You may think it's easy. It may even appear to be easy. But until you role play it and you go through it and work out those kinks, you don't have any idea how hard that is. And that's all comes from train,
And let's give them a challenge to do with yourself. If you're the one teaching or if you have instructors, what's something that we can tell them to go and implement tonight and do, whether that's picking 2 kids, every class and just telling them how great they did out of the blue, walking them over to their parents if it's children, whether it's virtual or live. I mean, what's a challenge that we could give everybody just to start implementing something? Now, if we say something that you already do, before you go on about your day, say, you know what, tonight I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to try to make sure this happens starting today. What's something that you would challenge them with, Tass?
Well, I'll start at the front door. I mean, I've watched this happen in schools, and we went and had, now I'm going to give an example, so just hold on because you're going to think I'm long-winded. But we literally had breakfast yesterday morning. You and I and Roland had breakfast yesterday morning, and we sat at the table, and Metzger's, after about 5 minutes, is like, are we going to get a server or aren't we? Like, we were sitting there waiting for 5 minutes, which is an eternity when you're sitting down at a table, right? When somebody walks through your front door, are we greeting them in the first 3 steps that they walk in the door? Or do we just say, oh, they're a student, don't worry about it. They're already enrolled. I don't need to say hi to them. So as they walk through the front door, and if we want to be one of Kovar's principles, right, is be the friendliest place in your town. Well, when they walk through the door, are we acknowledging them? Even if you're in the middle of a class with 20, 30, 40 students on the floor, whether it's a nod, it's a wave, it's a thumbs up, it's, hey, how you doing? Whatever it is, are you acknowledging those people when they walk through the door so that they feel like they're noticed? That would be, I would start at the front door. That's one thing.
Now, hold on. Before you even go to the next thing, here's the deal. That's everyone in your school. So if you have a front desk person and they're being greeted, that's not an excuse for your instructor not to acknowledge and start training them to keep their eyes off the floor, to just acknowledge them, say, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, hey, Johnny, and acknowledge them. And in defense to the breakfast restaurant, when we sat down for 5 minutes, we realized that at McDonald's, you have to go to the counter. They don't come and serve you. And that was just something we didn't realize. So I didn't want to bash the rest. All right. So what else?
Well, that would be number one. Number two, typically in a class, and I'm just kind of going in order here, right? But typically in a class, when somebody comes in, we greet them. And for those of you that have a leadership team or are looking to create a leadership team, and even if you don't have a leadership team and you don't think as an instructor you can be the one to do that consistently, then every class, place an advanced student, a leadership student, an assistant instructor, somebody, and say, look, I just want you to greet people when they walk in. So that's always taken care of when someone walks in the door. Now, the next thing is typically, we have what's called, pre-class formation. It's just a fancy way of saying, hey, look, when the next class comes in, they're all sitting on the edge of the mat, in the red warning track there, right? They're all sitting on the edge of the mat. Well, are they just sitting there? Or is someone pre-framing them for the class? Like, hey, how you doing today? And talking to them and getting them excited. Guys, we have a great class plan for you guys today. We're so excited you guys are here. We're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. During that time, I would also be doing proper uniform attire, right? So I'd be going through, do you have people that show up in your school that are, depending on your school, right? They're wearing sweatpants or jeans underneath their martial art bottoms. I mean, if you're cool with that, that's fine. We're not cool with it, right? I'm not even cool with people wearing different colored t-shirts under their top. Is their belt tied correctly? So looking, and here's an opportunity for you to praise somebody. So if you see someone who's in the proper uniform attire, you praise that person who happens to be sitting next to a person who's not in proper uniform attire. And like, oh, it's an easy way for you to take care of a challenge. Jewelry. How many people have, policies like there's no jewelry in class, right? And then they get on the floor, and then now you got to chastise somebody on the floor if you're going to do it, and say, hey, can you go take out you take off your necklace, take off your earrings, take off your watch, your bracelet, whatever it is. excuse me, if this is a policy in your school, but those things can be addressed in pre-class formation. Hey, one-on-one, just a real quick reminder, make sure you take off your earrings for your safety in class. Just, take those off before class starts. So you can be addressing those things on the floor. You look at students that get on the floor and their belts are tied and they're not tied correctly. I mean, how long is that trend going to last? All of a sudden they're a green belt, a purple belt, whatever. Get those things taken care of. That's another thing that you can focus on. And we're going to give you some things, but the recommendation, like you said, pick one thing that you want to master this week for the remainder of the week. Then next week, keep doing that and then add one more thing, right? So those are some things. Black belt a minute, depending on your school, right? Black belt a minute is it's something that we do. It's a metaphor for personal excellence. So, hey, Johnny, I like the way you're sitting like a black belt. He's sitting up tall. And then all other kids start sitting up tall. Or, wow, now let me see you stretch like a black belt. Let me see your power like a black belt. It's pre-framing black belt. Yes, there's a little bit of NLP, neuro-linguistic program, that goes on about equating black belt to excellence. But that's something that you can be doing every day. And Mr. McManawan knows I'm going through the 8 class points. That's exactly what I'm doing. Like, these are things, it's a system in our school that we cover every single day. And it's easiest to pick one thing, get that going, get it implemented, and then just start stacking as you go.
So let me give you one easy way to start building a leadership. And if you have a leadership team, keep doing what you're doing if it works. But let me give you something so simple that some of you can implement this as early as next month if you want, and generate some extra revenue. I'm going to give them a golden nugget for the majority here. If you're in the elite program, obviously you probably know this. If you're a CMA, you know this, but for everybody else. So let's push this to the top. Just type in that you're ready. I'm going to give it to you. So just type ready. I'm ready, because I'm going to give something good to you that you can implement, start making more money right now to get out of 2020 and COVID. That has to do with some instructor training. So type ready if you're ready. If I don't get at least 12 readies, we'll save it for next week. By the way, this is brought to you by.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's Metzger. Free month of martial arts. No tricks, no gimmicks, no obligation. Why not try it out? It's free.
Look what it inspired.
But guys, act fast, because this expires October 13th, 1995.
And there I am with my team.
And where are you? You just got out of prison with that shirt, or what was it?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So if an ex-con can have great classes, so can you.
That's right. All right. Do we have it? Ready? I don't know. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. All right. You guys are ready. Here we go.
Woo.
All right. If you want to make something simple and you want to get people into a leadership role that has value, look at all of your advanced students. Okay. And this is simple. So this isn't easy, but you can implement this now. Look at all your advanced students. You need to commit. Now, what we say is you got to commit for at least a year, right? And for us, it's Tass, what is it? $595 for the year, $595 for, you know what I'm talking about? Let me see. $595. Wait, yeah. I'll tell you right now.
For 12 months, yes.
Plus 185, $605. So for $605. Now, you could say for just $120 for the year, which is an extra $10 a month. But people usually just pay the $120. We do a year because if I'm going to teach you leadership training, my student, I need to get at least a year commitment out of you. Now, if you want to do a 6-month thing, don't do a month-to-month thing on this because it's pointless. Don't do a month-to-month thing. But here's how simple this is. Have a meeting with your leadership kids, right? Every Friday or Saturday, okay, for 1 hour, teaching them how to praise properly, hold targets, warm up class. But once you get through the fundamentals, you're going to go over with these advanced students what we're working on next week. This is what we're working on next week. Now, why is that important? Because you can control how they walk around and help all the other students because they're familiar. You can review the beginner forms or the beginner curriculum that you're hitting next week with your leadership people so they're sharp and they're on top of it. But then what you do is just get a class schedule, put the class schedule up on the wall, has all your classes, and you tell everyone that part of the requirement to be in this program is what Shane said earlier, if I can call you Shane. Telling isn't teaching, right? So we need to role play it. We need to practice it. Part of the requirement is, and I'll answer you there, Mr. Adams. Part of the process here is you got to assist in at least 2 classes a week, But you have a blank schedule up there because everybody's got to put their name next to the class that they want to assist in next week. But what you don't want is you don't want 9 assistants coming in the same class. So we will only allow 2 of our leadership people per class. So once there's 2 names on a specific class, you can't assist in that class. So you can get 10 leadership kids, 12, 15, whatever number you want. Again, we charge $605, which breaks down to $185 down and $35 extra a month for this program. They get a special leadership uniform, okay? But you don't have to do that. You can have a special patch for your team. But when you talk to a parent and say to the parent, Mrs. Santiago, because Mrs. Johnson, I told you, she's gone. Yeah. Mrs. Santiago, listen, your child's been training for so long, and I have a list here of kids that I want to start teaching how to be true leaders and how to start leading other kids or students. And I'd like to see if you'd be interested in putting, him or her in our leadership program. It's 1 class a week where we're going to go over how to be a leader, how to set an example, how to greet people at the door, how to say hello to parents, build up their confidence, take them to the next level on how to assist in class to start building them up to whether or not, now this is important, whether or not, yes, that is in addition to their regular tuition. This isn't on top of, but whether or not they ever want to be an instructor, this is going to teach them how to lead and be a leader and lead by example and teach and assist. So if you'd like that, I'd like to see if you want to get them in the leadership program. Now that program is, like I said, if you guys, just to make it simple, the reason why I'm just broadening this is so you just go do it now. You could say it's just $120 for the year. That's it. It's $120 for the year. But they also have to assist in 2 classes a week. Well, the majority of your students at that level are coming 2 to 3 times a week anyway. They can assist in the class after, they can assist in the class before, or they can assist in their siblings' class if the sibling comes to a class, whatever they want to do. But that's why you have the blank schedule. Now you're teaching specifically on what you're going to be covering next week. And now you've just built in some higher quality assistance as opposed to, hey, Johnny, can you just warm up this class for me? So you can walk off the mat, take a breather, talk to a parent or whatever, and they're just warming up the class and it's maybe not as exciting. The praising isn't happening like it should. The organization isn't going. The energy isn't there necessarily. It's training and specific and short bursts. All I want to focus on is next week. Friday, all I want to focus on is next week and give them opportunity. Now, you can also in that class teach them a demonstration that leadership will perform at your graduations as leaders. So they're going to learn some choreography, let's say, or a demo of some sorts so they can perform. Now, what's that going to do with all your other students when you have them where they feel different? They're in a different uniform. They're looking parents, not kids, parents in the eyes. They're shaking hands or fist bumping or whatever we do these days. They're greeting people at the door. They're acknowledging people when they walk in, not just the instructor, not just the front desk person. When you see a 12-year-old say hello to, Mrs. Smith coming in the door and acknowledging that shows something. That shows something about your school and how mature these kids can be in your school. But you can train it and get it executed immediately. Now, task, question. I've been doing this for free. How do I start charging now?
Well, let me back up one step before we go to that. some of you may have, you're like, well, these kids they're in school and I can't communicate with them, and I'm going to teach them this stuff on a Friday or Saturday. Two things. Number one, you can teach them on that Friday or Saturday the concepts and principles and cover what you're going to do next week, number one. And number two, don't overcomplicate this. I mean, put them in a closed Facebook group. Shoot a video. This isn't worth covering, just watch the video quick. I mean, there's so many ways to communicate that you absolutely can get this information out to your people, and you just need to start it. And the other thing that you may want to do, remember that anybody can be trained to be a leader, right? When we talk about holding pads and about using, the 3x3 rule, if you don't know some of these concepts, you need to, right? But if you just go and say, I'm going to take all my red and black belts, you may have a bit of a challenge with that, because they're going to want to come to class before theirs and class after theirs. And now you're going to be stacked up on all these red and black belts that want to make it convenient to the class before or after their class. It's okay to have an intermediate student help out with the beginner class. It's okay to have an advanced student help out with the intermediate class. It's okay to have black belts help out with the advanced class. So spread out your leaders, if you will. And if you want to set precedents, you can. It's okay to have potentially, have a higher level beginner student help out with your Little Dragons program. So you can stagger people throughout the course of your school. And again, I know you're trying to make this simple, Mets, but I also want to make sure that people don't look at this and go, wow, geez, what am I going to do? Just go and freaking do it. And the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to make it better over time. Now, if you,
before you answer the charging thing,
yes,
what he said is exactly right. The system on where we're at today is our Masters Club students are the ones getting into our leadership. But here's what'll happen. We start talking about that, you're gonna be like, well, I don't have a Masters Club, so I can't start a leadership. And yes, you do what he just said. You do what he just said. Now go ahead. I think you were gonna talk about
the charging thing, right? So I don't know the dynamics of your school. Did you charge in the past and now they're through it and they're not doing it anymore? Well, then I would just say go ahead and relaunch the program and start charging for it. No problem. If you've charged in the past and they're still doing the program, grandfather those people in and charge for the new people. Like this, I don't overthink it. I mean,
that's it. You either grandfather that you can't start charging somebody for something you sold them on then said it was included, number one, unless you add more value, give them more than what they were getting before. Now there's a fee for that, or don't charge them. And everyone going in now, there's a fee for it. So
if your leadership program, and guys, there's 100 different ways. This is why I would want to talk to you and find out about it. But if your leadership program was, you're like, hey, Johnny, can you come in the class before yours and just help out with class? And that was free, right? Like you're not charging for that, which I wouldn't, because that's a service. Depending on how you do it, it's a service for you, not for them. But if that's all you were doing, you can up your game and say, look, this has been so good for our students, but we also want to make sure we're providing even better direction, give more value. So every Friday or every Saturday, we're going to have a specific leadership class where we're going to teach you the leadership concepts. So it's not just done during class and just do it on the fly. We're going to prepare you and arm you. So every week that you can go out and you can teach the different leadership principles that we teach in our school, which will not only help you if you want to become an instructor someday in our martial arts school, but will help you regardless in your life. If you want to be a leader at school, you want to be a leader in scouts or on your sports team or wherever, these are leadership principles and concepts. And listen, normally, and this is what I would do, he's telling you to charge $10 extra a month as an example, but because we're launching it, normally this program would be $595 for the year, but we're doing it right now for $120 for the entire year. I would do a compare and contrast, because some people say, well, maybe I'll wait and I'll do it later. Great, you can do it later. Just know it's going to be $499 or $595. When you compare and contrast things, it pulls people, and they have an option. They're going to pick, do they want to do it now for the $120? Do they want to wait and know that maybe later it's going to be more money than it is right now? So those are just some different ideas that I would recommend doing.
And Mr. Munding and everybody else listening to this, yeah, you tell them when they enroll, there is a requirement. Now, if I say you got to assist with 2 classes, every week, let's just say that's 2, 4, 6, 8 classes a month. If you don't assist with it in at least 6 classes, unless you're on vacation traveling and you just miss it and you miss more than 2 classes of the leadership training a month, you would have to, there is no refund. I tell the parents there's no refund because you're taking a spot. We only take serious people. But if there's not a valid reason why they're missing the class, they would have to stay off they would be out of the leadership team for a period of time before they can come back in, and there's no refund. I tell them that before they even enroll because I'm counting on them, especially if you're a one-man show or one-woman show. I'm counting on you guys to be there to help assist, and I'm going to teach you and train you on how to be leaders. And it's letting your team down, especially if you're putting together a demonstration where you're going to be do a group demo at a graduation and you don't have people showing up. That messes up your whole demo. So you make that very clear. That's what we do. It's not a reason that if you didn't want to do that, you can't do the leadership program. You do the leadership program and charge and just do it with whoever shows up. You can absolutely do that. So what else?
I was reading a question and I had an idea. Again, we made it simple. You can just go do that, right? But if you're the type of person that says, okay, well, what else can I do to take it to the next level? By having them committed to teaching 2 classes per week, if they can't make it, this is powerful. I don't know if you guys know this, but this is powerful, man. They have a list of all the other leadership students. If they can't make it for some reason, this is something you don't have to do, right? But you could do it. Look, if you can't make it for whatever reason, here's a list of the contact information of other leadership students. You need to call and find your replacement. This starts teaching them what it's like to have work ethic. And it's not something that you have to do, but it's a little cherry on top if you want to do it. And sometimes we think like, really, we would do that? But parents love this. It's teaching their kids responsibility. It's so, especially if you have got 10, 11, 12-year-old kids doing leadership, and now that 11-year-old actually has to pick up the phone and call somebody else, say, hey, Johnny, it's Billy, and I can't make leadership class on Wednesday because I have a dentist appointment, right? And I was just wondering, would it be possible? Can we trade spots? Can I do your class? You do my class? That goes so far, and they're getting that training. They're learning that respect, and now you're doing what you said you would do, which is you're teaching leadership skills. You're teaching these kids about more than just martial arts. It's about how to be a leader in life, because so many people don't have those skills. We always hear, man, it's so hard to find good help. But in our industry, the negative is it takes us a long time because of the process in the farm team that we have to develop future leaders. The great news is we can begin developing leaders as white belts in our school and slowly trickle through so that when they get through this program, they're ready to become leaders in your school. And you can have a crop of students and of leaders, and future instructors. And this is look, everybody struggles with instructors. And then we talk to people and then we realize they don't have a leadership program. And this is why you struggle with leaders. You don't have your bench strength, and us included, by the way.
Hey.
We've been consistent and inconsistent with leadership program, but if you get consistent, time goes by like this. It goes by so fast, and next thing you know, you're going to have a crop of people that are ready to step up and lead your school.
Okay, so let me give a point. As I'm reading, Mr. Weaver was asking Mr. Munding, this is where I get confused. The leadership separate from the instructor, and mine was combined, and then Mr. Weaver's finding I find it difficult to guys, let me get you, this is what happens. This is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. If Mr. Weaver finds it difficult to call a 12-year-old an instructor, then don't call him an instructor. If Mr. Munding finds it easy, let him call him let's just implement the leadership program. Future instructor. Just have one word in front of that.
Junior instructor, team leader, assistant.
Whatever you're comfortable with. But this is what happens. And I'm not saying this is what's happening, but this is an example of how we stifle ourselves from getting started and just going.
Right.
It's the concept. You want to make it. Look, you get 10 people. Listen to what I'm saying here. You get 10 people to pay you an extra $120 for the year. And they just give you, $120, you're going to just generate $1,200 this month. You'll generate $1,200. Then you got to do the year. Okay. And then look, calling members, instructors, or even
I disagree.
maybe Mr. McGraw, and we don't call them assistant instructors. Our assistant instructors are paid. Our instructors are paid. It's a good point. But maybe somebody else doesn't have that problem, right? But if I agree, I think you're right there. But if somebody says, well, I have 80 people in my leadership team and we call them assistant instructors and they love it, I'm not going to tell them to change it. Great. God bless you, right? Again, there's 3 things you guys got to do in your school. And I don't care what style you teach. I don't care how traditional you are. Tash, you're about to be robbed.
No, this is instructor training coming in.
Oh, wow. All right. 3 things. You got to recruit students. You got to retain your students. And you got to generate revenue. Anything that you do is going to fall into one of those categories. And we always want to overcomplicate it. Yep. Don't overcomplicate it. Recruit, retain, and generate revenue.
And let me just throw this out there, because some of you may go, well, so you mean there's going to be a green belt that's in class and they're helping the system, and parents are going to look at that kid's only a green belt. He's helping out with class. Like we overcomplicate it. And Roland gives this example. Then throw a camouflage belt on the kid, and that's part of his leadership uniform. If you want to do that, you don't want belts to be an issue, right? Like it's not a matter of if it will work. It's a matter of what will you do to work it, because all these things are possible. And this is why being a part of a network or networking, whether that's you just get on the phone and calling other instructors or talking to other people in the industry, it's so important, because it's like when the what was it, the 4-minute mile was broke or whatever it was, or 6, I don't even know what it was, right? But the following year, you had a bunch more people that broke that record, because now there's social proof. It's like we all need to see somebody else doing it first in order for us to take action to go get it done. And we got to be, we got to take control of our own destinies and our own schools. And listen, just get it done and put it in play. And it's not going to be perfect, and you can make tweaks and adjustments and changes over time. And let me tell you, I'll just be Debbie Downer. Let me tell you, potentially in 3 years, you're not going to have a bunch of these people anyway. So you get a chance to start it over with new people because you have attrition. Sorry, Mets. I'm just throwing it out there.
Hey, if you want to, and you want to talk about the 4-minute mile, everybody watching, go to my page on Facebook, Michael Metzger. I think that's what it is, Michael Metzger. Okay. And Shelby just put up, you want to see how much fun we had this weekend? Shelby just put up, that's our social media director, a video of highlights from our seminar that we just did. And yes, people took off masks to get pictures and stuff. And when you see the group picture, everyone had a mask. And, so we don't need the comments on the masks and this, that, and the other. You're getting a snapshot. But take a look. I think that video shows how exciting, how fun it is that our industry is still pushing forward. Okay. And Mr. McGraw is assistant jacket, part of the program. He may be talking to Mr. Munding on this. But if you want it to be, it is. I mean, and that's why I'm trying to make this so simple, right? And then I get what you're saying, but who has the most successful leadership program or instructor program that we can follow in this forum? Well, first, we don't want to look and see who has the most successful instructor or leadership program in this forum. We want to know who has the most successful leadership program. But I will tell you, there's several people in the elite program, probably most of them, right, that have a successful leadership or instructor program, but it's because they understand the concept more than the details specific to everybody's school and style, right? And that's important to understand. And Mr. Weaver, you can reach out to either one of us here, and we can talk about the culture of your school and what we think you can do and what would be most successful for you. I just know that if somebody's not doing this, everybody would be successful if you just implemented this concept, right? Whether you want to have a jacket, you want to call them little ninjas, tiny tigers, mighty mites, future instructors, leaders of America. I mean,
storm. I mean, there's 100 different ways to do it, guys.
Right. And Shane, please call Shane. Can you do that, please?
Very nice.
Can you get them on live now? We'll bring them on live. No.
Perfect.
Okay. Hey, last thing. I want to give you a big tip. Big last tip, and then I'm going to let you go. Do not like I did because of COVID and everything else. This can actually be a deterrent. If you're going to market, and we talked about how we're sending mailers to the homes, right? So if you're going to market because of COVID, this one line can hurt you right here.
Family atmosphere, friendship, but wait, one word.
Closeness.
Dude, where did you ever come up with closeness as a benefit?
Well, I was kind of creepy when I was younger, you know, but I put it out there. I don't hide anything. We're transparent.
And he wasn't even at BJJ school.
You train with me, you get closeness, everyone.
Closeness. Oh,
yeah. But by the way,
that
actually could be a deterrent during COVID. Or as I quickly learned, a deterrent period. Anyway, isn't this something?
That is.
I mean, and then I found this note on the back. Dear Mike, please let Vincent use this coupon. My husband wanted to know about uniform pricing too. Thanks. Please call if problems. Sincerely.
Did you just get that back? I mean, it expired in 95 or 96. Did that just come back to you? They want to use it?
Right. And I didn't have an expiration date. Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah. But there's a lesson. If it did come back yesterday, oh, no, ma'am, I'm sorry, that expired in 96. You can't use that anymore.
Yeah, Vincent is 43 years old now, and he would love to use this. Anyway, hey, I put that out there because if I can do it with this is how far I've come, everyone.
Good stuff.
By the way, rich or poor, I wanted you to be able to train. Look at this statement.
Uniforms are optional for new students.
I wasn't selling a lot of packages.
Oh, man.
And the logic in that was, you know what? Whether you can afford a uniform or not, come and train. Learn martial arts.
Okay, good, Beth. So let me ask you the question. Do you have more students now when you actually charge for equipment and uniforms? Or did you have more students then?
We had probably 400 or 500 more students back then.
Higher.
No, we probably have about 1,950 more students today than we did back then.
Right.
Paying more than $4 a class, by the way.
Month to month, yeah. Exactly.
Not month to month, class to class.
Class to class, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, the month to month thing was like life-changing.
Good stuff.
Anyway, so there it is, guys. Wow, it brings back memories. And look at the hours. Did you notice the school hours?
Yeah, 4:30 to 9.
Yeah, it was a full day. I was putting in long days.
Mr. Stewart, hey, thank you for the shout out, sir. Appreciate it, my friend. You're doing a lot of hard work.
Oh, wow. That's great. All right. Well, guys, check out my page and take a look at the video. It's pretty cool. And I'm just excited about it because we just brought a new hire into our office. He's doing a fantastic job. Brian, if you're listening, doing a great job. We hired him on Wednesday. And his second day of work, I said, I need you to work Saturday. And by the way, can you learn to fly a drone so you can get an aerial picture? And he did. He came in and did a fantastic job and put this video together by like Monday or Tuesday. It was done. And it's just a little montage. So check it out on my Facebook page, and you'll see how the elite event went. It was a great time. Great seeing everybody. Great seeing the industry start coming back a little bit. And listen, I'll be saying it. The media is scaring the crap out of people. It's so funny. If you're watching the national news, they're talking about the pandemic and the resurgence and how, X amount of states are having record surges in COVID. And you look at Florida and they're not one of them. But back in July, we were leading the world with numbers of cases, but our death rate was so low. Well, of course, as these states start opening up, cases are going to surge. Our governor said literally at a press conference back in July when we were hitting 15,000 cases a day, who cares? Of course it's going to surge. We're doing more testing and we're letting people have more freedoms now, but our death rate is what we want to watch. That's extremely low. And not to diminish any death, but a lot of these deaths were, pre-existing, like very severe, because I have some doctor friends in the Orlando hospitals and stuff. But my point is it's a shame that it's hurting some businesses these closures and stuff. But as they open up the states, cases are going to go up, right? We just don't want to be losing people. And Florida's not one of them. And we've been open. We're in phase 3. As a matter of fact, our governor said stadiums can go to full capacity, meaning like Miami Dolphins. They can have their 70,000 people if they want. They didn't start doing it, but they how do we link my page?
You know, Mr. Weaver, just go to Facebook and search Mike Metzger and you'll find him and go look at his page. That's it.
There you go. Yeah, because I don't even know. As a matter of fact, I didn't even post it. One of Miss Shelby has my.
Mr. Weaver, you and I are friends on Facebook, and go look at I shared Metzger's post on my Facebook page, so go there and look at it if you want.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, listen, go implement, go do it, and we'll see everybody next week.
Matt, we'll see you in 2 days. I'll be back down. This weather's ridiculous.
We'll be waiting for you.
All right, buddy.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.